I don't quite have enough books yet, so we're gonna have to gather some books throughout this. I set a challenge for myself to find the shortest book in the entire store.
The book that I've chosen for my under 200 page book.
I'm gonna read a whole bunch of queer stuff today. One, because I deserve it. This was an experience I won't soon forget. I'm starting to grow concerned that I will not complete this. People have been telling me to read for years, so I just bought it. Shockingly, this challenge is negatively affecting my content. Who would have thought? I don't know how many times I've probably repeated myself. I've been filming for 30 days. Like, what's even happening? We love a plot twist. Hi friends, it's Kayla. What I failed to mention to you in my March TBR is that I'm going to attempt to read 30 books this month. This idea was inspired by me wanting to do a video that was like 30 books to read before I turn 30. And then I was like, ooh, I actually only have 30 days until I turn 30. So let's cram in 30 books. This is one part vlog. I'm gonna vlog every day for the next 30 days. One part challenge, because I'm challenging myself to read 30 books in 30 days. And one part wrap up, because this is going to serve as my March wrap up where I tell you all the 30 books, hopefully, that I read this month. Obviously, short books are the most conducive to this challenge, so I'm going to be reading a ton of short stuff. I don't think this is unrealistic of a goal, because in January and February, I read but almost 6,000 pages each month respectively, and each month I read like 15 books with an average page count of like between 300 and 400 pages. So if I get my average book to around 180 pages, then I can still read the same amount of pages but twice the amount of books. That's how math works. So I found some short books that I have as arcs, some short books already on my TBR shelf, some short books from the library. I don't quite have enough books yet, so we're gonna have to gather some books throughout this. I have a lot of things going on this month, things you've already seen, participating in a couple readathons, doing a childhood favorites reread. I'm gonna be on a podcast. I'm going on a trip tomorrow, so I need to pack my bag and take some books with me and go book shopping maybe while we're there. Let's just start together. All right. So today I flew to Vancouver and read Out of Body by Jeffrey Ford. I read a little during the flight. I read while we were out. I found this really cute bookstore which was just packed with so many things. So I grabbed a couple books, including a short story collection I've never heard of and a new edition of one of my favorite books, Slaughterhouse-Five, just because I was overwhelmed and just grabbed whatever I saw and could find in the mess of that bookstore. As for Out of Body by Jeffrey Ford, Tor was kind enough to send this to me. You're gonna see me read a lot of Tor books throughout this video that I picked up myself because they do a lot of weird short things. Out of Body is about this librarian and he witnesses a murder, and then it's kind of a mystery of him finding out the truth about stuff, but it's also this horror book because he's experiencing sleep paralysis and an out-of-body experience where he can connect with other sleepers. There are dangerous things, and overall I had to give it only 3 stars because I am just figuring out what I even like in this horror genre, right? And I've discovered that I prefer more realistic horror, naturalistic horror, folk horror, science horror even, as opposed to supernatural and paranormal horror, which is what this was. Creature horror, monster horror, how many times can I say horror? Just isn't my favorite. So that's why I rated it the way that I did. Today I spoke at a conference in Vancouver, which was really fun, and I read half of Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGinnis. now I'm going out for drinks. So I doubt I'll be reading anymore or updating you any further. So let's just switch to day 3, where we've got to complete that and maybe another book. Today I flew home. I finished Be Not Far From Me on the plane, and I got some exciting book mail. I also got a lot of book mail that I didn't ask for. I think this gives you an idea of the books that don't quite make the cut in a book haul. I don't like unsolicited packages personally, and some publishers continue to send them, so I'm gonna have to send some emails, those awkward emails to publishers where I want to appreciate the fact they sent me things, but I'm not going to promote just everything that's sent to me, otherwise it'll become bigger and bigger. But I might as well show you here some books that didn't quite make it into this month's book haul, but there are definitely people who would love to read these books, and I send it along to them. I might stop by a free little library and drop some off. It's just a waste. This is beautiful, but it's like a historical fiction. Super cute. Have you heard of it? And then all the time and thought that goes into these marketing packages. I mean, that's lovely. Anyway, the books that I did get for this month specifically, because they're very tiny, are Don't Call Us Dead and Silver in the Wood, which I got recommended a ton on Twitter when I asked you specifically for queer books or LGBTQ books under 200 pages. And now, oh, I guess I should tell you about, oh, where did it go? Be Not Far From Me. I really enjoyed this. I always expect Mindy McGinnis to get weird. Some of her books get really weird. This one didn't quite. It was graphic. It's about a girl in the woods, and she's just lost and injured, and she's surviving. It's a mix of like Hatchet and Wild. I really liked it. Yeah, I thought it was gonna do something more, but it was really great for what it was. So I think 4 stars. And now I think I'll probably read the entirety of this today, but I also have to leave soon to go be a guest on the Books Unbound podcast, which I'm really excited about. And I'm gonna take over their podcast a little and ask for more recommendations for more books that are short, because I don't quite have enough. Hello.
Woo!
I'm here with Ariel.
It's
or
me.
Should this be our background?
Yeah, probably. It's
pretty.
It's a lot more bookish. The people will click on that. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay, what I need from you
is,
oh my god, I'm good with any graphic novel, but the shorter the better and the gayer the better.
if you haven't read Laura Jean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, you need to. Do you like horror stuff?
Yes.
Okay. You've got to read Through the Woods.
Okay, I've heard of that as well.
Look how scary it is. It's terrifying.
I am frightened.
But it's beautiful.
Okay. So if you've got anything for me, weird and under 200 pages, I'm gonna read it this month, so it better be good.
Okay, Raylene, there's a lot of pressure here. I didn't realize how high the pressure was. The book that I specifically chose for today is Gwendy's Button Box. Have you read this?
I haven't.
Okay, woohoo!
Oh my god, that's one of the only Stephen Kings I've never read.
Yeah, the book that I've chosen for my under 200 page book, Fly on the Wall by E. Lockhart again. I thought you were going to say Animal Farm, but you have.
See, I've heard you guys mention this, but I don't think I've actually paid attention to the pitch of it. Like,
oh good. Oh my god.
Fantastic.
Really, I have another moment.
it is super windy outside. I went to film the sound, and suddenly a box went flying up the street, which is really funny to watch. I also got to try the new Timbits cereal. Wasn't great. Also picked up Liam from his snowboarding class and got to finish this, which was really quick. I want a mix of everything this month, like audiobooks, ebooks. I want to do poetry. I want to do graphic novels. I want to do books from my TBR shelf, the library, borrowed. I want to hit it all. So this was interesting because I've seen Denise Smith do their like spoken word or performative poetry and really liked it, and some of those poems I didn't realize were from this, which is super cool. This is such a mix of tone. Like, some things are really heavy and some things are really fucking funny. I would recommend, if you're not a huge reader of poetry, go watch like them perform, because it's pretty amazing. They're pretty well known for, I think it's the very first one in here, Dear White America. I'll go ahead and link it down below. And I would actually give this 5 stars. I don't know if I've given a poetry collection 5 stars recently, but this focuses on sexuality. It focuses on the Black experience in America, racism. It touches on HIV. This author is HIV positive, and it's a whole theme in here. And I think tomorrow I might start the book that Ariel recommended me. Today I did what I do most days, you know, 20 out of 30 of these days will be spent at the office, so I'm not going to bore you with doing this every day, but I get ready for the day, I drop off Liam, I drive and get my coffee, I keep driving to work, then I leave work. I drink a lot of coffee at work, do a lot of typing, and then I stop by Value Village because I set a challenge for myself to find the shortest book in the entire store. The smallest book I found at Value Village was actually in this little bag. There were quite a few bags to choose from, and it's dusty. In this one, I found the Canadian poetry book, which I feel like I should already know about because I'm Canadian. And then T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. It's 57 pages, officially the shortest book, I think, I've ever owned. It's not like a children's book. This isn't a children's book, right? Oh, is it poetry? And now here we are at the end of the night. I've made some discoveries. 1, this book was very strange. 2, the soap I was sent is very delicious. I first identified this as maybe a strange pickle, then I thought it was soap. As I pulled it out, I realized it was very soft, and so I took a hesitant bite, and it's indeed a pistachio cake of sorts. Let me give you a little taste of what I just experienced. Gus is the cat at the theater door. His name, as I ought to have told you before, is really Asparagus. That's such a fuss. This was an experience I won't soon forget. So I've realized the most challenging part of this experiment is not reading 30 books in 30 days, because I'm on track, it's going well. It's the fact that I have to put all my thoughts together in a concise way in a very short period of time, because I need to tell you what I thought of this book, but I just finished it, but I have to fall asleep now. But I can't wait because I have to talk to you about a book every day. So this is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. It's like a dystopian kind of story. It's very broad and very narrow at the same time. It's like dystopian and futuristic and about like the incarceration of Black people, but it's also this like intimate family story, and it's really beautiful. It's about incarceration and racism, but like some like sci-fi fantasy powers, and it's about the cycle of violence. I thought it was really interesting. I don't know my final rating. I think it's probably a 4, though I want to reread it. I think I would gain something more from it upon reread. This morning was a hockey day. Liam has a tournament for the next 3 days. He didn't win today, but I won 50-50, which is this thing where like you pay to get tickets, and then all the money gets pulled together, and half of it goes to your hockey association, half of it goes to like a winner whose ticket gets pulled. And I won for the first time ever. Now he has like 4 more games this weekend. This weekend I'm gonna read some graphic novels, I think. I'll flip through all of them and see which one speaks to me. Today, Liam's hockey tournament continued. He had 2 games. Won the first one, lost the second one. He was goalie in the second one, and they just barely lost. I filmed some videos today, edited videos, uploaded a video, got some more bookish mail, and read a little bit with Liam. Also took some bookmark photos. So it was a busier day with that than with reading. I really love filming these clips at the end of the day. Like, is this how I'm gonna look this entire month? Oh well. Now I'm in a bit of a predicament because I'm halfway through 2 books. I didn't finish this yesterday. This is the graphic novel that I decided to go with. It's Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. I love the art style so much. It's black and white, but it's got little bits of pink, and it's nice. As much as I can enjoy a graphic novel, I feel like I'm having a good time. And then I'm reading The Invisible Man. I'm trying to read some more classics and watch their adaptations just because there's so many this year. And I'm liking this more than I thought I would. So that's nice. But it's getting kind of late. And I have a lot to do tomorrow as well. This is where I'm at. I should have finished both of these today, but that didn't quite happen. I have no fun clips from today. It's just the 8th day. We're here. I'm caught up. I finished The Invisible Man this morning and I liked it. I don't know my official star rating. I think it's like a 3.75. It was about this invisible man, and he is a scientist who discovered how to become invisible, and he's talking to these people throughout the book, telling them how he became invisible and what he's going to do with his invisibility, and then doing some bad stuff. Very interesting. Then I finished Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Marika Tamaki. I'm sorry, I just don't like graphic novels. I might try a couple more times this month. I just feel like making the official call that, like, I don't like graphic novels, but I want to take the opportunity to maybe love some. I feel like I have to explain myself because so many people come at me like I'm saying that graphic novels are bad or that you shouldn't like them, which is not the case. I just don't like cartoons. I don't like animated movies. My enjoyment of a book is about the description and inner monologue and exposition. Like, that's just what I love about reading. And dialogue itself just doesn't do it for me. I can appreciate what this book is. The art style I love so much. I get that it's beautiful. I just don't like looking at it. Like, what? This book says so many great things. Obviously, we're featuring diverse characters. A lot of themes that YA books have, like when you get into a relationship, especially one that's toxic, or where you're mistreated or emotionally manipulated, it affects all aspects of your life, and that was reflected in here, which I appreciate. We saw a lot of growth with the main character. The next shortest book that I think I have is Silver in the Wood. This is by Emily Tesh. We will knock this out today. There's a wild man who lives in the deep quiet of Green Hollow, and he listens to the wood. Oh my. Okay, Silver in the Wood. So this was a story about this guy who lives in the woods, and then there's a new owner of the woods, and it's their, like, kind of love story, but not really. It's not as, like, romance or sexy times heavy as I expected, and it was quite fun. It was really atmospheric. It almost read like fan fiction. I don't know of what, because I don't read fae or fairy stories, nor do I even know if those two things mean the same thing. But just in that we were dropped into this world and not really introduced to the characters as if we were already supposed to be familiar with them. The descriptions were amazing for a 100-page book. Like, I really got a feel for this forest and the history, and this guy has lived there for centuries. And I just wanted to get to know the characters a little more. I know that there is a sequel. I don't know if this is going to be a widely spanning series. I don't know if I will continue, but it would be nice to get to know the characters more and see their relationship more. This was really funny too. At no point did the writing imply that someone was telling a joke or being sarcastic. There was no like even slight references, like he smirked or he smiled after the other guy said something funny. But like, I was laughing reading this at just some of the comments, and then they would just go on with their conversation, not acknowledging that something really fucking funny just happened. I feel like the pace was a little weird. Like, it didn't keep my attention for 100 pages. Like, I was like scrolling through TikTok, and then I was back at it, and like for a 100-page book to not be able to hold my attention and keep its pace. But I overall really liked this story and like the vibe and the writing itself and the characters as much as I got of them. We have now completed 8 books in 8 days, feeling great. I feel like we've accomplished some things. We read the shortest book I could find, read some arcs, read a book being adapted. I read a poetry collection, a graphic novel, and then a couple short, weird, fantastical stories. That is my check-in at 1 week, and I'm feeling great. Tomorrow starts the backlist readathon. I think I have some more ambitious books planned. Basically, yesterday I remembered that this book existed, and I'm trying to read short things. And then this occurred to me, which people have been telling me to read for years. So I just bought it. Shockingly, this challenge is negatively affecting my content. Who would have thought? I was supposed to put a video up a week ago, and then I just didn't. And then I was supposed to put a video up yesterday, and I just didn't. Week 2 of this challenge is over. I've lost 3 nails, and I've done a poor job of updating you, but I did read 7 more books in the last 7 days, so I'm on track. What I'm not on track for is vlogging the experience, because I was vlogging it for a different video. Now this video's gotten weird, but let me tell you what I read in the last week. One of them I left in the car. And the books I read, as I slowly fall apart here, were the 2 recommended by Books Unbound. Gwendy's Button Box, 5 stars, incredible recommendation, the perfect amount of weird. It's set in Castle Rock. There's this guy with this box of buttons, and he gives it to this girl for safekeeping, and she has to decide if she wants to press the buttons or not. Just a good time. Fly on the Wall by E. Lockhart. Great recommendation. Super weird. A YA book inspired by metamorphosis, where a girl turns into a fly. Not quite as expected. The storyline and content in here, but we're seeing a group of boys and what they talk about when the girls aren't around, how they treat each other. It was a little rough. 3 stars. Talked about all these books, hopefully more in length in my vlog, which I barely remember. I still have to edit it. The Vegetarian by Han Kang. So here's what happened. Instead of just reading like 1 book a day for 7 days, I basically read 2 books in 5 days and 5 books in 2 days, because this tried to kill me. It's really rough to get through, and I posted my review for 2 stars, and people were like, oh, some things are too weird for even you. I didn't not like this because it was weird. I didn't like it because I just don't I don't get the hype. I really just don't think this was that good. I also read The Half-Life of Molly Pierce, which was way better than I expected it to be. I don't know why. I also read Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. 4 stars. This was also 4 stars. This is about two-spirit indigiqueer person who is going back to the res, and on the way has a lot of different experiences, meets a lot of different people. It's just like a week in his life as a sex worker, and it's very intense at times, funny at times. I love slice of life stories, and it was enjoyable. I also read Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This is something that I really like. I'm glad I'm doing this like reading short books thing, because this is exactly the type of thing that I like. This short, like, non-fiction, I don't know, manifesto, like I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya, Dear Ijuwele by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, just like these selection of stories from someone's life. This one was a little more stream of consciousness. It was talking about being Black in America and the history of slavery and discussions of incarceration and just how Black bodies are treated. And I gave it 5 stars. Like the next book I'm about to talk about, The Flight of the Hummingbird, I don't think for me they introduced really like new topics or said a lot of new ideas, but obviously that depends on the reader. But even though like I didn't learn anything, which I guess is what you would expect from a nonfiction that's like a letter talking about, you know, history and future and like ownership of bodies, like you'd think you'd learn something. Regardless, I gave it 5 stars just because I think it's really powerful, really strong for what it is, and I like the writing style that just like throwing it all out there and whatever thoughts are in your head. It's written to his son. And then Flight of the Hummingbird, which I don't have. Really good. It's a parable. I'm not sure I even know what that word means. Simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson. Perfect. It's a parable. Yeah. So it's basically telling this Flight of the Hummingbird story, which I think has Aboriginal origin. I know the author is Aboriginal. I'm trying to remember exactly what the Flight of the Hummingbird story, where it came from, but the whole idea of the Flight of the Hummingbird is just that no matter how small you are or how little impact you feel like you're making, just like being constant with it, whatever your intentions are, can change the world. I think the whole point is climate change and the environment and taking care of things. There's a section in there from the Dalai Lama about taking care of the environment, and it was only like a 60-page book, so there's only so much you can have in there, considering like the author bios at the end took up like 10 pages on their own. But there's like a couple of pages with the hummingbird story, and then discussing the hummingbird story, discussing, I don't even know, just like other ideas about land, and then the Dalai Lama said his piece, and that was it. It was good. I don't really know who I would recommend it to. Maybe like children? It's probably a little too mature. I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll get Liam to read it and he can tell you his thoughts, because it's very kind of basic, but it's important. So how do you rate that? I don't know. I'll tell you once my 9-year-old reads it. And that's it for this week. So lots of short things, lots of good things. And now next week, again, I'm vlogging the entire week in a different video, so hopefully I'll be able to remember to vlog here. But I'm reading my childhood favorites from 3rd grade, which is going to be very conducive to this whole challenge. Today I worked. Then I went to take a road test and the place was all shut down. Then I spent a really nice afternoon with Liam. We went to some beaches. And then we got the news that the schools are shutting down until potentially September. So grappling with that. But my escape took a literary form in reading The Secret Garden, which is a childhood favorite that I reread and loved more than I even thought I would. This follows a girl who has lost her parents and is moving into this great manor with her uncle, but her uncle doesn't really have time for her. So she escapes via the garden on the property where she's not supposed to be. And she meets up with some different people who live there, who live near, and she learns a lot. And I think it only takes place over like a couple seasons of life, but I think there's a really good character arc in here. And this is a really well done book. Got some problems with it for sure, but overall really enjoyable. And these Pantone collections, I just bought a whole bunch of them from Book Outlet, are giving me life. All right, the last couple days I have been working from home. I have been getting some book mail and I've been reading some childhood favorites. So I read a Junie B. Jones. Junie B. First Grader at Last by Barbara Park. I'm not reading these because that's strange. Judy Moody Was in a Mood, Not a Good Mood, a Bad Mood by Megan McDonald. Illustrated by Peter H. Reynolds. And You Can't Eat Your Chickenpox, Amber Brown by Paula Danziger. These are all about young ladies from 1st to 4th grade and the shenanigans they get into. They're dealing with topical things like having to get glasses, getting chickenpox, parents divorcing, and I thought they were all really nice, and I'm excited to pass them along to Liam and see what he thinks. So today I stayed in bed until about 1 p.m. and I didn't know why. I felt so exhausted. Yeah, I'm so sick. I have this wheeze. It's just really beautiful. But I listened to the audiobook of The Chronicles of Narnia today. Well, just The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Again, reading childhood favorites. This was definitely one from when I was 8. I even have a little book where I state that it's a favorite. It's funny because some of the childhood favorites have reminded me of certain things that I forgot about the books, or I've gotten a new perspective on something. But The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is exactly as I remember it, and I definitely haven't reread it since I was like 8 years old. So the last couple days have been spent social distancing. I've been working from home, hanging out with Liam, getting books in the mail, and reading my childhood favorites. I finally completed the last of them, Charlotte's Web and Pippi Longstocking, which were both a pleasant surprise. And I think overall this entire childhood favorites has probably been my favorite of the series, because sometimes the books just aren't what I remember or don't hold up, but this week has been good. So again, I'm not really rating them, but I did enjoy these and would still recommend, which is nice. At this point, I'm a little behind on my challenge because I wasn't feeling great. So I have exactly 7 more books to go. And to stay on track, I need to read 2 today. So we're gonna go with a graphic novel because that will be quick. And then In the House in the Dark of the Woods by Laird Hunt. This is Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. They both have woods in the title, so I felt like pairing them up made sense. I don't know what either of them are, but I know that they take place in the woods. And that's all I need to know. Overall, I'm still feeling good about the challenge. However, I have, not on purpose, but because I can't really get access to any more books right now, everything's closed, or like not shipping, the library's closed, obviously like appropriately. I just have to work with what I have for the last week, a little under a week of this challenge. But I think most of the books that I have remaining, including this one, are closer to like 250 pages than my goal of averaging at like 180. But it's gonna be great because I'm working from home, which means that's an hour less spent on a commute every day. So that should equal an hour more of reading a day if I commit to it and don't spend that hour scrolling through TikTok in my bed, which is a possibility. It remains to be seen. We'll find out. It's funny how I envisioned this video to go, but now we don't leave the house, so there's nothing interesting. I had so many fun plans and trips this month. We're not gonna talk about it. I am officially very behind on my challenge. I'm starting to grow concerned that I will not complete this. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, so I can't even look at myself. I look like I've had a rough week. As far as reading goes, which is what we're all here for, there's something about orange books that appear to be short, but drain the life out of you and take you way longer than you think to read them. In the House in the Dark in the Woods is one of the strangest things I've read, and I don't know how to rate it, and I don't know how to review it, and I don't even think I understand. I just finished this, so it's very late / very early, and I need to think on this longer because it's a lot. It's like it feels like a fairy tale. You're following this woman who has left her family to go find berries in the woods, and suddenly she gets lost and comes upon this house and stays at this house, and then can't find her way back ish. The writing was beyond up my alley. This is like psychological horror, and I felt chills a couple times while reading. I marked some pages because I need to remember this feeling, because books don't give me this like uneasy feeling very often. It is an incredible book. I loved it. However, I literally have to sit and ponder what just happened, because there's a difference between a 4 and a 5, and this could be a 5 if I can wrap my brain around all of the connections and explanation and cyclical nature of this story. I also finished Through the Woods, and nobody told me. I guess you did, because it's like, what, a horror graphic novel? This shit's spooky, y'all. The spookiest parts of this, I feel like, I never thought that images could spoil a book, but just like I wouldn't want to flash, you know, a page at the end of a book to you, I wouldn't want to flash any images at you, because the shock of them is what makes this so good. At the same time, as great as this was, I just don't like the process of reading graphic novels. I cannot appreciate them to their fullest extent. I didn't know this was stories, which was cool too. Well, cool, and made me lost for a little bit, because, oh, there's no page numbers, but I don't know, there was like a good, 30 pages that were one story, and then another story started, but like didn't introduce itself in a way that I knew it was a new story. I don't know what a title page is in a graphic novel, so I was waiting for the stories to start to tie together, and then they didn't, and then I understood what was happening. The best ones in here were the first one and the last one, for sure. And now we're no longer marathoning, we are sprinting. because there's only a couple days left. So I spent my day today dedicated to listening to the audiobook of Platform 7. I was determined to finish it in one day, so that's all I did today. Every single opportunity I got, I was listening to the audiobook. And I didn't like it. So now I'm mad. This was the only long book I picked this month. It was 422 pages. And I was like, it's okay, I can read one long book this entire month. I'll make it work with all the other short things. But it wasn't even worth it, so now I'm just grumpy. What? Well, okay. What I didn't like about this, let me count the ways. First of all, I just want to say, like, if you do still want to read this, which there is definitely an audience for this, but I want to say, don't listen to the audiobook. Not because there's anything wrong with the audiobook, the production, the voice actor, whatever. It's that this story is not enjoyable as an audiobook because 400 of the 422 pages are just listening to a man gaslighting his wife. And it was just not a positive thing to listen to. Obviously, a lot of books like say important things and are hard to listen to. But in this case, it was just like being berated for 6 hours. It's interesting how many books I have read about women in unhealthy or abusive relationships this month. This one reminded me of the tone of If I Stay by Gail Forman. The idea of like being in a coma or in purgatory or whatever and still being able to see all the things around you, and a commentary like on your life and what happened to you and your future kind of. But in this aspect, she's a ghost. It's not about like where her life's going to go after this, but it is reflecting on a lot of things, and it's like a mystery of how she ended up dead in the first place, but it's not like the typical mystery book that I read, because like I said, most of it is just recounting her relationship and the terrible way that she was treated. Who I would recommend this to is give this to the toxic man in your life who doesn't understand what gaslighting is, and maybe this will teach him a thing or two. It was really just exhausting, and being that it was something I picked for my mystery thriller book club, it wasn't that genre, so I'm just naturally not stoked. As much as there are some mysterious elements, like that's just not the genre I would place it in. So bummed about it, and I don't think my co-host loved it either, but I am interested to discuss this with you guys in April. Today is my birthday. Not very exciting things are happening, but obviously I get to spend it with my family, which is all that really matters. Well, the other thing that matters is hopefully I get an ice cream cake, because that's my shit. And I'm gonna read a whole bunch of queer stuff today. One, because I deserve it, and two, it's actually the Queer Lit readathon, I guess. There's a full one in May, like a traditional week-long thing, but this one is just a weekend to, like, I don't know, amp you up. So I'm gonna try to read 3 things today. I've heard the Foxhole Court is queer, so I thought that would fit with this readathon. Also, The Empress of Salt and Fortune that I just got in the mail. This is small, and it was recommended as one of those under 200 page queer books that I asked for on Twitter, as well as Death Threat. So I've read Vivek Shraya before, but not a graphic novel. This might be their only graphic novel. And it doesn't look like there are many words anyway, so this is probably like a 5-second read. But that's what I'm up to. Usually I don't update you till the end of the day and I just show you clips, but I was filming something else, so I thought I would film too while I felt a little bit cute sitting inside all day on my 30th birthday. So my birthday turned out to not totally suck. I got to hang out with my boys. My mom dropped off an ice cream cake. I hung out in a parking lot, social distancing with my friends. I ended up FaceTiming with some other friends, and then I went live for 3 hours and drank a bottle of wine with you guys. All in all, 30's not looking too shabby. And I read a 5-star book today. So, The Empress of Salt and Fortune. I love when a short story can elicit an emotional reaction from me, which is what this did. My explanation of this wasn't perfect, I found out. In my haul, well, I described it right, but like the perspective's a little different. So we are following like an empress who is just becoming part of the family, and she has a friend, Rabbit, who is her handmaiden. But we're not actually really following her story, but we are learning about her story because we're listening to Rabbit tell her story of years and years and years ago, what went down with the Empress and her and all that kind of stuff. And we have a main character, well, I don't even know how to describe them. The characters in here like aren't really human too, kind of. We're following a character named Chi, and they are being told Rabbit's story. So this just felt like a really classic fairy tale that I feel like should be told forever. It is just like perfectly told. It's like this slow kind of reveal of like why the story that Rabbit is telling even matters current day. Oh my god, this is just literally perfect. This should be a classic. I also read Death Threat, which happened in like 30 seconds because this is mostly imagery. It's kind of meta because it's essentially the story of Vivek Shreya writing this book. Some really intense imagery, and it shows like the journey of the illustrations. It's very interesting, and it hinges on the fact that Vivek Shreya is trans and gets death threats from people on the internet, and it's like, who are these people? Do they matter? Am I actually in danger? I thought it was great. As we've established, graphic novels are not my thing. I don't know how many times I've probably repeated myself. I've been filming for 30 days. Like, what's even happening? And just like with all the others, I want to respect what this did and give it high praise, but like, it can't get more than a 3-star. Moving on. The Foxhole Court. Let me tell you, if we weren't at the end of this challenge, this is the epitome of what a DNF should be. I'm not having a good time. This is objectively poorly written. It's offensive. It has lots and lots of questionable things. It has a lot of slurs. Some of them are clearly by like not villainous, but like bad characters. Some of them are challenged, most of them are not. Our main character is constantly referring to people's mental health by calling them psychos and psychotic and like, what's wrong with her? Does she have a split personality? And then calling people like midgets. Lots and lots of homophobia. And interestingly, something that I talked about in my live was the whole conversation around like what problematic content is, and the idea that just because a character behaves a certain way doesn't mean the book or the author is endorsing that. But at the same time, in what cases is that okay? Can you still sympathize with a character if they behave that way? Are you still meant to sympathize with a character if they behave that way? I don't know the answer, but I know I'm not enjoying this. Though I just realized this is, I'm pretty sure it's self-published. Like, it doesn't have any stuff on it that implies otherwise. And now it makes sense why I had to order it from Amazon. So in that case, I can forgive certain things, more of like the structural things, because this is like a struggle to read physically. Like, each page is taking me a long time to read because it's kind of a mess. And there have been some like actual errors that I'm like, are you okay? The plot itself is about this boy who comes from a gang kind of background, and sorry, there's this sport called Exy. It's like lacrosse, hockey, soccer, something, and he's like really good at it, but he hasn't played in like 10 years or something like that, which would have made him 8 years old, and apparently he was like so good that this team automatically like accepted him even though he hasn't played in 10 years, to like this like really important like college level NCAA team, which is just confusing. But he doesn't want people to actually know who he is because he has a dark past. And I was reading this for the Queer Lit Readathon. I don't know when and if it goes there or if it's like a side character thing, because we have some side characters. One side character joked about raping the main character and then drugged him and kissed him without his consent. So that's where we're at with this. So what happened on the 30th? I decided to start my day rereading Slaughterhouse-Five. I picked this up at the very beginning of the month, not with the intention of reading it this month, but just because I thought it matched the rest of my Kurt Vonnegut collection, which it does more so than the edition I had, but it's not because it's the vintage edition. But anyway, I think I read this like the first year on my channel, and I rated it 4 stars, and since then I've called it like a favorite classic just because I haven't read very many classics. And that was before I even knew that I loved like weird kind of sci-fi. So I was thinking, if I reread it now, is it going to be 5 stars? Like, could I enjoy it even more? So I reread it and I gave it the exact same rating. It's still a 4. I still consider it a favorite classic. I think it's great. But there are definitely things that don't completely appeal to me in here to make it a 5 star. We're following a character named Billy Pilgrim, aliens, war. I really like, I still love the quotes in here. I still love this so desperately that I want to get it tattooed, but it's so cliche. I just really love this and respect what it is, but not enough to give it 5 stars apparently, so nothing's changed. And then I finished The Foxhole Court. Oh my god. So I gave this 2 stars. I think I said in my last clip that it's terrible. It's objectively terrible. I'm pretty sure even like hardcore fans of this, which I didn't even know y'all existed until I posted about this, but even they recognize that this is very flawed. And they say that it gets better in the series because it's a trilogy. And I was like, I'm not gonna read more into this series. Like, I hate it. I think it's bad. But last night I ordered the sequel. Don't look at me. I will not explain myself. Yes, I will. Okay. I don't foresee like the issues that I have with this being resolved in the series. However, the writing got drastically better as this book went on. And there was a scene where, like, I don't even know if I explained this, but we've got this boy, right, his identity, he's hiding his identity, and then this team that he's joined, but then there's this other group of people who are bad, and then like oh my god, what is wrong with me? We get this scene with one of those people, and that scene was so good, and it just added this whole other dynamic, because like I didn't like what I was reading to begin with. I was also getting kind of bored of this repetitive boys fighting. The whole book is just like people who hate each other, but in the next scene they seem to like forget the fact that they just beat the shit out of each other, and then they're fine until they get in another argument. There's a lot of like questionable drug, mental health, and like so many issues. But just as I was getting like really tired of it, we kind of switched, and now I just want to see where this goes. Do I think I'm gonna love the sequel and stan this series? Never. But am I intrigued enough to want to know where this ends up? Yeah. Fuck. I have had this recommended to me so much over the last couple years, and in none of those conversations when it was recommended to me was there any opposite opinion. There was never anybody coming forward saying like, no, you shouldn't read that, you're not gonna like that, that's not your thing, like this is problematic. It was only positive. And then as soon as I posted that I bought it, everyone came out of the woodwork and was like, you're gonna hate that. And I'm like, where were you in the last 3 years? But it makes sense because I guess I never actually told anybody or talked about the fact that this was on my TBR and I was interested in it, because I never put it on Goodreads. It was just something in the back of my head that I know everybody loved, and I thought eventually one day, like in a situation like this, like I would just pick it up on a whim just as something to read. And I can't believe my own arc here, that like this was terrible and I can't wait to read more. We love a plot twist. So that's where we're ending this 30 books in 30 days, with this trash fire. I'm not going to recap the whole thing because honestly it's all a blur. I can't believe I accomplished it. I don't know how it happened. Yes, I do, because I picked lots of really short books. I'm going to put the total page count here, and I am guessing it's a little higher than it was in January and February, but I think I'm probably pretty on track because, or on par, because I did read some books that were like 50 pages this month. But that's what happened. I'm not looking forward to editing this, and I'll see you later. Thank you for watching the whole thing if you did. Oh my gosh. Bye.